The Brewers seemed to run out of gas in 2014 after leading the NL Central for much of the first half of the season. They'll try to stay in contention for 162 games in 2015. Tim McMaster here, joined by Jim Duquette as we get ready for spring training. And Duke, let's start by looking at some of the key additions that the Brewers have made in the offseason. Adam Lind is added at first base, Luis Sardinas, a new shortstop in that Brewers mix, and then Corey Knebel on the mound. Now, Duke, one of the reasons they faded late, obviously the injury to Ryan Braun, and now as they get ready for spring training, they have a new injury with Jonathan Lucroy nursing a hamstring.
Yeah, the Brewers are trying not to have injuries kind of derail their offense like it did last year. As you mentioned, they were last in the National League in runs scored in the month of September, and that was having to do with Ryan Braun's injury. Now, it looks like after surgery, he should be healthy, and when you add he and Chris Davis and Carlos Gomez, that outfield is one of the most productive there in the National League. Obviously, Adam Lind should be more productive at first base than what they've seen. When you have Ramirez and Segura on the left side, you're hoping they'll continue to have solid seasons offensively. But a lot of their season, they start, at least at the beginning of the season, off kilter a little bit with Lucroy being injured, as you mentioned. Now, it's a little tricky because either catch that position with a hamstring can be difficult to get your legs underneath you. They wanted him to play some first base. That interrupts him a little bit on the defensive side, but it's also, I think, an area where it pushes them in the future, maybe later in the season, to get more ground balls over there because of the fact that this hamstring may be an issue long term.
Now, when you look at the Brewers pitching staff, obviously they trade away Yovani Gallardo. He's been the ace there in Milwaukee for years. Do they have enough young arms to kind of fill in that hole?
You know, a lot of that trade was dependent on the fact that Jimmy Nelson last season at the end of the year came on the scene and pitched very well. So a lot of the focus and attention will go on him and his development. When you look at what Willie Peralta did last year, he turned out to be one of the top young pitchers, a kind of Johnny Cueto type of pitcher. Last season, pitched at a high level. And so, I think Peralta and Nelson, and you look at Fires as well, those are three guys at the back end that may end up being at the front end of the rotation by some point in the middle of the season. It'll still be anchored by the two veterans there, Kyle Loesch and Matt Garza. A lot of their success, I think, will be dependent upon their bullpen right now as they continue to look for improvements even as we get close to spring training.